Isn't this weird vibes?
It's weird vibes.
This is weird vibes.
What is going on?
They literally are like, you are not the sporting director anymore. You are going to Coral Gables. And why is Messi's boy the new sporting director? Why did they demote the guy that they just hired? Well, I'm glad you asked. Per Tom Bogert, there's been a big shakeup in the Inter Miami CF front office, with president of football operations, Raul, I might screw this one up, Raul Sanelli, reassigned to oversee matters pertaining to institutional relations. So this guy was...
That's a lot of corporate speak, Ari.
This guy, basically, to uncorporate speak that, they hired this guy as sporting director to replace Chris Henderson, who went to Atlanta United. Shout out Chris Henderson.
Shout out.
They hired this guy to replace him. I just saw this a few days ago. They reassigned to oversee... They didn't
even have his name on the door yet.
They demoted him, like, just weeks after hiring him. They demoted him to some, like, I mean, what is this? Oversee matters pertaining to institutional relations.
You can wash our socks, dude.
That's so. That's the first thing I see that, and I'm like, what is going on here?
Yeah,
what is going on here? And then it turns out that the guy who's replacing Raul Sanelli, Guillermo Hoyos, he's now in charge of the sporting decisions. He's the sporting director. He was their academy director. He is now the sporting director, and it turns out that he is like Lionel Messi's boy.
Yeah.
Messi calls him his footballing godfather.
Yeah.
I guess he mentored him when he was coming up in the Barcelona academy or something like that. And they've been boys forever. He came to Miami with Messi. Apparently he'd been the academy director all this time. Now he's getting promoted to sporting director. And this other dude is getting demoted, and he's been reassigned. I forgot this detail. They reassigned him to the club's office in Coral Gables and not the first team facility. They literally are like, you are not the sporting director anymore. You are going to Coral Gables. So what is going on here? And why is Messi's boy the new sporting director? Why did they demote the guy that they just hired? Well, I'm glad you asked. Turns out, also according to Tom Bogert, while the club were in Las Vegas for a preseason match against Club America, Sanelli, the original sporting director, entered the players and coaches only bus, which prompted an exchange of words with Lionel Messi.
Can we like imagine right now what it is? Like, we can do a little like bit right here where we pretend that you can be Messi and I'll be the guy.
I mean, what do you...
I don't know. We'll just try and act it out here. Hey, I'm on the team bus, and because I needed to talk to you. He's another Italian. Yeah.
Basically, as I understand it, Messi expressed some sentiment to the effect of, "Hey man, this is a players and coaches only bus. You're not a player or coach. What are you doing on here?" And evidently, what it sounds like happened is they started chirping at each other. It got testy. I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind is, like, if you're the sporting director at Inter Miami, you just got hired, like, literally 80% of your job description is specifically keeping that person, that one guy, happy. So, like, how are you going to get in a feud with him on the bus right off rip? But honestly, no, I actually don't have all that much of a take on this story, other than just, isn't this weird vibes?
It's weird vibes.
This is weird vibes. What is going on down there?
Messi?
And, like, I understand everyone knows that Messi is the most powerful person in that organization, but I will say, when you give a player this much power, you're towing a fine line there. You're playing with fire. You don't want to make him too powerful. It sounds like he's already too powerful, but, like, where do you draw the line? Is he going to hire the scouting directors next?
He already hired your coach.
He hired your coach, which we didn't even point that out, but he literally hired the coach. That's one of his boys. Yep. He got pissed at the sporting director. That dude is in Coral Gables.
They literally put him in a container and shipped his ass off to another part of Florida.
Shipped him to a different part of Florida, and now his boy is the sporting director. The thing is, like, do we, like, have any indication that this guy is, like, qualified from being Messi's footballing godfather and the academy director to now be the sporting director? Like, I have no idea.
In the league that is one of the hardest to be a sporting director in.
Yeah,
like,
he's got to learn what Gam and Tam is, like, right off the bat. You think the Messi's godfather knows what Gam and Tam is?
No,
I doubt it.
Probably doesn't even know about the new MAM rule.
So, like, I understand they have to give him this type of power.
Sure.
That's part of the deal with him coming to the league, being on the team. I don't know if that ends well. I would be sketched out if I were a fan. I'd be sketched out.
I think it's wild. What could he have possibly... I think there's two things. I want to know what that exchange could have possibly been. Like, Tom, God. I need you to leak the transcript. Someone has, like, a black box
I would
from
give
that
anything
bus,
to be a fly on that bus.
Oh, my God. I mean, like, yeah, like, bro brings in all of his boys, And then,
he's hired half the team.
He's hired half the club, half the training staff, half the coaches, and now he's got the sporting director.
The squad is essentially Lionel Messi Incorporated at this point.
Yeah.
It's like his company.
Yeah. It's getting ridiculous. It's getting ridiculous. I love Messi. Messi will forever be the GOAT to me, but like, man,
I've just never seen a player like demote this. I've definitely never seen a player get the sporting director shipped to Coral Gables, Florida. That's for sure. I've never seen that.
He's basically LeBron, like what LeBron did.
I was going to say that's like the closest comp that I could think of.
Yeah.
But even that, he never like people joke that he's the GM. He never got the GM sent to like like the Bay Area.
They're like they're like, you've been on the job 3 days, so if we fire you, there's probably going to be a litigation. So we're just going to reassign you to the back office with the broken copier.
I just think that's weird vibe for Inter Miami. They're playing a dangerous game. I'm going to be keeping track of the vibes down there because we were with everyone else last year watching them play and being like, damn, this is probably the best MLS team I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. If their vibes go toxic or Messi's unhappy or just like this academy director, footballing godfather as your sporting director, like they better hope they've got like some real good infrastructure around that guy. I don't think he even wants that job.
Probably not.
I mean, maybe. I don't know.
Here's what's crazy though. I feel like they're Icarusing, right? Like they had Sean Henderson saved them. He saved them. He got them out. Chris, I'm sorry, Sean. Chris, he saved them. He took them from this club that
they were a joke.
They were not only a joke, they were like so incompliant that it was like 3 seasons in a row that they were like sanctioned for.
They had 6 DPs and then almost wooden spooned anyway.
Yeah, like so you went from one of the best in the business to someone who seemingly had some sort of credibility.
He had to have some qualification.
I've never heard of him, but like, whatever. And now it's just
Messi's boy.
Messi's academy boy. What are we doing? Like, do you think that Inter Miami survives after Messi leaves?
Well, so this is, I guess, sort of the other point to think about, which is that it feels like a house of cards.
Yeah.
They got 4 of the top like 12 players that have ever played the game, including the literal best player, all like on the wrong side of 34, 35. Mm-hmm. And that's going to work in MLS until they're in their late 30s. But if you don't have like the infrastructure and foundation around that, if those guys age out, they get hurt, they leave, they retire or bored, you are chalked and you're not going to be able to like sustain your success at all. For however much people complain about broke Hanauer and Seattle's roster building, they have a foundation in place where 1 player or 2 or 3 players having to move off them, it'll hurt you. It'll take some time to work your way back up, but it doesn't necessarily have to sink them, like Inter Miami, they're not in that situation at all right now.
No, they're not looking good. And this comes off of the heels of transferring away like half of their young players that Messi attracted to the club, which we were both like, oh, they're set up great for the future. They've got all of these prospects that they can work into the first team. And, Messi will eventually sunset off and the Barca boys will eventually sunset off, but you're going to be able to work in these new really good young players. And Jorge Mas is like, we will always have at least one of the best players in the world on our club. So you're like, oh, okay, maybe this is something. And now it's like, all right, let's be so for real. You are coached, owned, operated by Messi. That's not going to work.
That's what it seems like.
It's not going to work. It's not going to work, Ari.
Yeah, I mean, we'll be tracking their potential downfall. I mean, we're talking about all this, and the reality is that when you get the Barca boys out on the field, and they are even 70 to 80% of their Barca boys days, this is probably the toughest team. This is the toughest team to stop in the league still. But toxic vibes can change a lot.